You will never be able to afford anything in here." The words come from a boy who cannot be older than 15, his voice carrying the certainty of inherited wealth and unearned confidence. He stands in the doorway of Bellamy's, the most exclusive boutique on Madison Avenue, blocking the path of a 12-year-old black girl in secondhand sneakers and a dress her grandmother made by hand. His blazer costs more than her family's monthly rent. His watch, a gift for his last birthday, could feed her entire block for a year. He does not see a person standing before him. He sees an inconvenience, an intrusion, something that does not belong in his world. The girl's name is Imani Washington. She has $17 in her pocket, birthday money from her grandmother, and she has walked 43 blocks from Harlem to this store because her grandmother once told her that Bellamy's sells the most beautiful silk scarves in the city. Her grandmother, Rosetta Washington, wore a Bellamy's scarf on her wedding day in 1962, purchased with money she saved for 2 years while working as a seamstress. That scarf still hangs in their apartment, faded but precious, a reminder of beauty earned through sacrifice. Imani does not want to buy anything today. She just wants to see. She wants to touch the fabric her grandmother described with such reverence. She wants to stand in the space where her grandmother once stood and understand why that memory matters so much. But the boy in the doorway does not know any of this. He does not care. He sees a black girl from a poor neighborhood trying to enter his space. And he has decided that this cannot be allowed. His name is Preston Ashworth IV. His family has been wealthy for 5 generations. His great-great-grandfather made a fortune in textiles, building an empire on the backs of workers who were paid barely enough to survive. The Ashworth name appears on buildings, on charity galas, on the boards of museums and hospitals. Preston has never worked a day in his life. He has never wanted for anything. He has never been told no by anyone who mattered. And he has never, not once, considered that the girl standing before him might matter at all. Imani does not respond to his words. She does not cry. She does not shrink. She stands perfectly still, her grandmother's voice echoing in her mind. "You hold your head high, baby. You look them in the eye. You never let them see you bend." She looks Preston Ashworth IV directly in the eye. She memorizes his face, his smirk, the casual cruelty that comes so easily to him. And then she walks away. Not because she is defeated, because she is planning. 14 years later, Imani Washington signs the purchase agreement for Bellamy's in a conference room on the 62nd floor of a building she now partially owns. The store, along with its 3 sister locations and its entire inventory of luxury goods, becomes hers for the sum of $47 million. The previous owners, a consortium of investors who acquired the brand during a restructuring, never knew that the woman buying their company once stood in the doorway of their flagship store and was told she did not belong. They do not know that she has spent 14 years preparing for this moment. And they do not know that every business decision she has made, every investment, every calculated risk, has been building toward this single transaction. They know only that Imani Washington is the founder and CEO of Monarch Enterprises, a holding company that has quietly acquired stakes in 17 luxury retail brands over the past 5 years. They know that she is 26 years old, that she dropped out of Columbia Business School to start her first company at 19, that she turned a small investment from a family friend into a portfolio worth over $200 million. They know that she is brilliant, relentless, and impossible to outmaneuver. What they do not know is why she wants this particular store so badly. What they do not know is that the scarf her grandmother treasured was destroyed in a fire when Imani was 16, along with everything else they owned, and that she has never stopped grieving that loss. What they do not know is that Preston Ashworth IV, now 29, is a junior vice president at his family's investment firm and still walks through the doors of Bellamy's every month to buy gifts for whatever woman he is currently dating, never realizing that the store he treats as his personal shopping catalog now belongs to the girl he dismissed as worthless. Imani signs her name. The lawyers shuffle papers. Hands are shaken. Champagne is poured. And when the room finally empties, Imani stands alone at the window, looking out at the city that once made her feel so small. She thinks about her grandmother, who died 3 years ago without ever knowing that her granddaughter would one day own the store where she bought her wedding scarf. She thinks about the fire that took everything, about the years of struggle that followed, about the nights she spent studying while other teenagers were living their lives. She thinks about Preston Ashworth IV, whose words have echoed in her mind for 14 years. You will never be able to afford anything in here. She can afford all of it now. Every silk scarf, every leather bag, every piece of jewelry locked in velvet cases. She can afford the building itself, the fixtures, the brand, the legacy. She can afford to burn it all to the ground if she wants to, but that is not what she wants. What she wants is more complicated, more painful, more necessary. Imani pulls out her phone. She dials a number. Then when the voice answers, she speaks clearly. Schedule the grand reopening for next month. Make sure the press is there, and make sure Preston Ashworth gets an invitation. The line goes quiet. Then, are you sure? Imani looks out at the city lights, at the tower where the Ashworth family has their offices, at the world that has belonged to people like them for so long. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. The story of how Imani Washington built her empire begins not with business school applications or venture capital meetings, but with a sewing machine in a cramped apartment in Harlem. Her grandmother, Rosetta, worked as a seamstress for 47 years. She mended clothes for neighbors, altered dresses for brides, and created outfits from fabric scraps that could have passed for designer pieces. She never made much money. She never owned property. She never took a vacation or bought a new car or ate at a restaurant that required reservations. But she understood fabric. She understood quality. She understood the difference between something made to last and something made to be thrown away. And she passed that knowledge to her granddaughter, stitch by stitch, through countless afternoons spent at the sewing table. You see this thread, baby, Rosetta would say, holding up a spool of silk. This is what the fancy stores use. Feel it, learn it, know it. Someday, this knowledge will be worth more than anything they teach you in school. Imani learned. She learned to identify fabric by touch, to spot poor construction from across a room, to understand why certain garments cost thousands of dollars while others fell apart in weeks. She learned the economics of luxury, the psychology of desire, the mechanics of aspiration. She learned that wealthy people did not buy things because they needed them. They bought things because of how those things made them feel, and she learned that feelings could be manufactured, packaged, and sold. By the time she was 12, Imani could walk into any store and instantly assess the quality of its merchandise, the markup on its prices, the story it was telling its customers. She could see the machinery behind the magic, and she wanted to understand how to build that machinery herself. Her grandmother encouraged this. She saw something in Imani that she recognized from her own youth, a hunger that poverty could not extinguish, a refusal to accept the limits that the world tried to impose. She told Imani stories about her own dreams, about the dress shop she had wanted to open, about the designs she had sketched in notebooks that were now yellow with age. I ran out of time, baby, Rosetta would say. I spent so many years surviving that I never got the chance to build. But you are different. You are going to have the chance I never had. And when you do, you are going to take it. Imani promised she would. She made that promise when she was 7 years old, and she renewed it every year until her grandmother died. It became the foundation of everything she did, the reason she studied when other children played, the reason she sought out mentors and devoured books and asked questions that adults found uncomfortable. She was not building a career, she was building a monument. The walk from Harlem to Madison Avenue on the day she encountered Preston Ashworth took 2 hours and 14 minutes. Imani had saved the route on her phone, memorizing every turn, every landmark, every transition from neighborhood to neighborhood. She watched the buildings change from public housing to brownstones to glass towers. She watched the people change from faces that looked like hers to faces that looked at her with suspicion. She watched the stores change from dollar shops and bodegas to boutiques with no visible prices, because if you had to ask, you could not afford it. Bellamy's occupied the corner of Madison and 73rd, a limestone building with brass fixtures and windows displaying mannequins and clothes that cost more than most people's cars. Imani stood across the street for 17 minutes before she crossed, gathering her courage, reminding herself of why she had come. She was not there to buy. She was there to learn, to see, to understand. The doorman gave her a look when she approached, but he did not stop her. Perhaps he assumed she was with someone. Perhaps he did not want to create a scene. Perhaps he simply did not care enough to intervene. Whatever the reason, Imani made it through the first set of doors before Preston Ashworth IV stepped into her path. He was there with his mother, a woman in a fur coat who was examining a display of handbags with the bored expression of someone who has seen everything beautiful and found it all lacking. Preston had wandered away from her, toward the entrance, where he spotted Imani trying to enter. His response was immediate, instinctive. Son, the product of a lifetime spent believing that the world was divided into people who mattered and people who did not. "Excuse me," he said, his voice carrying the tone of someone addressing a servant. "I do not think you belong here." Imani stopped. She looked at him. She saw a boy her own age, dressed in clothes that cost more than her grandmother earned in a month, looking at her as if she were something unpleasant he had stepped in. "I just want to look," she said. Her voice was steady. She had learned that from her grandmother too, the steadiness, the refusal to show weakness. Preston laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had never faced consequences for his cruelty, who had been taught that his comfort mattered more than other people's dignity. "Look, at what? You will never be able to afford anything in here. Just go back to wherever you came from." The words hit Imani like physical blows, not because they were surprising. She had faced prejudice before. She knew what it felt like to be seen as less than, to be judged by her skin and her clothes and her address. But something about the casual certainty of his dismissal, the absolute confidence that he was right and she was nothing, carved itself into her memory. She would remember his face for the rest of her life. The way his lip curled, the way his eyes dismissed her, the way he turned back to his mother without a second thought, already forgetting that she existed. Imani walked away. She walked all the way back to Harlem, 43 blocks, her feet aching and her heart burning. When she got home, her grandmother was waiting at the kitchen table, the way she always waited when Imani came home from her explorations. "What did you see, baby?" Imani sat down across from her grandmother. She described the store, the beautiful things in the windows, the feeling of walking through neighborhoods that seemed to exist in a different country than her own. And then she described Preston Ashworth, his words, his laughter, the way he had made her feel. Rosetta listened without interrupting. When Imani finished, the old woman was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "There will always be people like that boy, people who think their money makes them better than us, people who cannot see past what we do not have to see what we are. But here is what I want you to remember, baby. That boy did not earn anything he has. His parents gave it to him, and their parents gave it to them. Say to you going back generations. He thinks he is powerful, but he is just lucky." She leaned forward. "You are not lucky. You do not have the luxury of luck. Everything you achieve, you will have to earn twice over. But that means everything you achieve will actually be yours. That boy will never know what it feels like to build something from nothing. He will never know the pride of earning what he has. He will spend his whole life surrounded by things he does not deserve and wondering why none of it makes him happy." Imani listened. She absorbed. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a plan began to form. Not a plan for revenge, something bigger, something more lasting. A plan to become so successful, so powerful, so undeniable that no one would ever be able to dismiss her again. That night, Imani took out a notebook and wrote 2 words on the first page. "Watch me." She underlined them twice, and then she began to plan. The fire happened 4 years after the encounter at Bellamy's, on a night in February when the temperature dropped to 12 degrees and the ancient heating system in their building finally gave out. Imani was 16. Her grandmother was 73. The flames started in the basement, in the room where the building superintendent stored old furniture and forgotten belongings. By the time the fire department arrived, 3 floors were engulfed. Imani woke to the smell of smoke. She ran to her grandmother's room, found her already struggling to stand, and half carried her to the stairwell. They made it out of the building with nothing but the clothes they were wearing. The scarf. Why, the precious Bellamy's scarf that Rosetta had worn on her wedding day, burned along with everything else. 62 years of memories, reduced to ash and rubble in less than an hour. They spent the next 3 months in a shelter, then a series of temporary apartments, then finally, a small unit in public housing that was clean but cramped, with walls so thin they could hear their neighbors' conversations in pipes that rattled every time someone flushed a toilet. Rosetta never fully recovered. The trauma of the fire, the loss of everything she had accumulated over a lifetime of work, seemed to break something inside her. She stopped sewing. She stopped telling stories. She sat by the window for hours, staring at nothing, her hands folded in her lap where they used to hold fabric and needles. Imani watched her grandmother fade, and she watched the strongest woman she had ever known slowly disappear, replaced by someone who had given up on everything except the act of existing. And she made a decision. She would not let the fire win. She would not let the loss define them. She would rebuild everything that had been taken, and she would do it in a way that would make her grandmother proud. She got a job at a dry cleaner, working after school and on weekends. She saved every penny she could. She applied for scholarships, wrote essays about her experiences, impressed interview committees with her intensity and her focus. She got into Columbia on a full scholarship, the first person in her family to attend college. And then, halfway through her first year of business school, she dropped out. Not because she was failing, because she had found something better. A woman named Henrietta Cole, a retired retail executive who had built and sold 3 companies in her career, read an article Imani wrote for the school newspaper about the psychology of luxury branding. Henrietta recognized something in Imani's words, something sharp and hungry, and exactly like what she had felt when she was young and building her first company from nothing. She reached out. They met for coffee. And 3 hours later, Henrietta offered Imani something that no business school could provide, a mentorship and a $50,000 investment to start her own company. "You have something special," Henrietta said. "I see it in the way you think, the way you analyze, the way you refuse to accept limits. Business school will teach you how to fit into the system. I want to teach you how to change it." Imani accepted. She left Columbia. She moved into a studio apartment that cost $400 a month, and she began to build. Her first company was a consulting firm that helped small businesses in underserved communities develop their branding and marketing strategies. She worked 18-hour days, learning from every client, making connections, building a reputation for insight and results. Within 2 years, she had expanded to 12 employees and was generating revenue of over $2 million annually. She sold the company for 10 times that amount. Her second company was an investment fund focused on minority-owned businesses in the fashion and retail sectors. She raised $30 million in her first round of funding, leveraging her reputation and her network to attract investors who believed in her vision. While she identified struggling brands with strong fundamentals, acquired them, restructured them, and sold them at a profit. Within 3 years, her fund had returned over 300% to its investors. By the time she was 25, Imani Washington was one of the most successful young investors in the fashion industry. Magazine profiles called her a visionary. Industry conferences invited her to speak. Investors lined up to give her money. But she never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the fire, the shelter, the cramped apartment where her grandmother sat by the window and stared at nothing. She never forgot Preston Ashworth IV and his casual cruelty. And she never stopped watching Bellamy's, waiting for the moment when it would become vulnerable. That moment came on a Tuesday afternoon in March, when a contact at an investment bank called to tell her that the consortium that owned Bellamy's was looking to divest. The brand was struggling, sales were down. The management team had made a series of bad decisions that had alienated their core customers without attracting new ones. The consortium wanted out. They wanted someone to take the problem off their hands. Imani made her offer within 48 hours. It was aggressive, but not insulting. It demonstrated that she understood the brand's problems and had a plan to fix them. And it came with a condition. The deal had to close within 30 days, with no public announcement until she chose to make one. The consortium agreed. They did not care who bought the brand, as long as they got their money, when they did not know that they were handing their struggling company to someone who had dreamed of owning it for 14 years. The closing was quiet. The paperwork was extensive, and when it was done, Imani Washington owned every share of Bellamy's, every store, every piece of inventory, every thread of silk in their entire catalog. She waited a week before she told anyone. She wanted to sit with the feeling, to understand what it meant, to process the journey that had brought her to this moment. She visited her grandmother's grave in a small cemetery in the Bronx, where the headstones were modest and the grass was always a little overgrown. She sat on the bench beside the grave and talked to Rosetta the way she always did when she needed guidance. "I did it, Grandma. I bought the store, the one with the scarf you loved, then the one where that boy told me I did not belong." The wind rustled through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called. "I know it does not bring you back. I know it does not undo the fire or the years we lost, or all the things that were taken from us. But it means something. It means that we matter. It means that everything you taught me, everything you sacrificed, was not for nothing." She paused, wiped her eyes. "And I am going to make sure the whole world knows it." The grand reopening of Bellamy's takes place on a Saturday evening in June, exactly 1 month after Imani's acquisition becomes public knowledge. The fashion press has been buzzing about the change in ownership, speculating about what the young entrepreneur will do with the struggling heritage brand. Industry observers expect modernization, perhaps a shift toward e-commerce, maybe a collaboration with a celebrity designer. What they get is something far more personal. The store has been transformed. The cold marble and brass that once made it feel like a museum have been softened with warm woods and natural fabrics. The lighting is welcoming rather than intimidating. The staff, many of them hired from communities that have never been represented in luxury retail, greet every customer with genuine warmth rather than the calculated condescension of the old regime. And in the center of the main floor, in a glass case that draws every eye, hangs a single silk scarf. It is identical to the one Rosetta Washington wore on her wedding day, recreated from photographs in her granddaughter's memory by a team of master craftspeople who understood the assignment. A small plaque beside the case reads, "In honor of Rosetta Washington, 1952 to 2023, who taught her granddaughter that beauty is not about what you can afford, but about what you can create." The guest list for the reopening includes fashion editors, celebrities, influencers, and investors. It also includes one name that the PR team found unusual, Preston Ashworth IV. Imani insisted on the invitation. She did not explain why. Her team assumed it was a networking decision, a way to connect with the old money families who had historically been Bellamy's core customers. They did not know the history. They did not know what this night really means. Preston arrives at 7:47 p.m. He is alone. His latest girlfriend, a model he has been dating for 3 weeks, had a conflicting engagement. So he wears a suit that costs more than most people's cars and a watch that costs more than most people's houses. He walks through the doors of Bellamy's with the easy confidence of someone who has been walking through these doors his entire life. He does not recognize the store, the warmth, the accessibility, the diverse staff. None of it matches his memory. He frowns slightly, as if the changes are a personal affront. And then he sees her. Imani stands at the center of the room, surrounded by admirers, dressed in an outfit that would have cost her grandmother a year's salary. She is not the scared 12-year-old girl who stood in the doorway 14 years ago. She is the CEO of a company that is reshaping luxury retail. She is the owner of the building he is standing in. She is everything he told her she could never be. For a moment, Preston does not recognize her. Why would he? She was nothing to him, a minor irritation, forgotten the moment he turned away. He has encountered countless people he considers beneath him over the years. He does not remember their faces. He does not remember their names. He does not remember the words he used to dismiss them. But Imani remembers. She has been waiting for this moment for 14 years. She sees him scanning the room, sees the moment his eyes pass over her without recognition, sees the way he moves toward the bar with the casual entitlement of someone who has never been denied anything. She excuses herself from her conversation. She picks up 2 glasses of champagne. She walks across the room toward him. Preston Ashworth. Her voice is calm, friendly, perfectly controlled. He turns, looks at her, tries to place her face. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" Imani smiles. "We met once. A long time ago. You probably do not remember. You had just finished shopping with your mother. I was trying to come in." She hands him a glass of champagne. "You told me I would never be able to afford anything in here." Preston's face changes. The color drains from his cheeks. His hand freezes halfway to the glass. His mind scrambles to catch up with what is happening. "I do not," he starts. You do not remember. Imani finishes for him. I know, I was nothing to you. Just a poor black girl who wandered into your space. Why would you remember? She takes a sip of her champagne. But I remembered you. Every word, every smirk, every second of how you made me feel. And I want you to know something, Preston. She gestures at the room around them. The store, the staff, the guests, yet the future. I own all of this now. Not my family, not my investors. Me. The girl you told did not belong. I bought the entire store, and I did it because you were wrong. Because everyone who ever looked at me and saw nothing was wrong. Because the world that told me I could not is the world I am going to change. Preston opens his mouth, closes it. He has no words. For the first time in his life, he is standing in front of someone he cannot dismiss, cannot ignore, cannot make disappear. He is standing in the presence of the consequence of his cruelty. Imani holds out the champagne glass again. He takes it this time, his hand shaking slightly. I am not telling you this for revenge, she says. I am telling you because you need to know that your words have weight. The things you say to people, the way you treat them, it matters. It stays with them. It shapes them. You shaped me, Preston. Not in the way you intended, but you shaped me. She steps back. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a business to run. Enjoy the party. She turns and walks away, leaving him standing alone with a glass of champagne and a lifetime of assumptions crumbling around him. He will leave the party early. He will go home to his empty apartment and sit in the dark for a long time. He will think about the girl in the doorway, the words he said, the person she became. He will wonder, perhaps for the first time in his life, about all the other people he has dismissed, all the other lives he has touched without knowing, all the seeds of pain he has planted that might be growing into something he cannot control. Imani does not look back. She does not need to. She has already won. The weeks after the reopening are a whirlwind of press coverage, investor calls, and strategic planning. Imani gives interviews to every major publication. She tells her story, not as a tale of revenge, but as a testament to perseverance. She talks about her grandmother, about the fire, about the years of struggle and sacrifice that brought her to this moment. She talks about the importance of representation, of making luxury accessible to people who have historically been excluded, of building a brand that reflects the diversity of its customers. The response is overwhelming. Sales at Bellamy's increased by 300% in the first month. The company's social media following triples. Sure, applications for jobs at the store flood in from candidates who have never seen themselves reflected in luxury retail and now believe that there might be a place for them. Imani hires a team of designers from underrepresented backgrounds to create a new line of scarves, each one inspired by stories of resilience and triumph. She establishes a scholarship fund for students from low-income families who want to pursue careers in fashion and business. She creates a mentorship program that pairs young entrepreneurs with experienced executives, the same kind of opportunity that Henrietta Cole gave her. But amid all the success, there are moments of quiet grief. Imani visits her grandmother's grave every Sunday morning. She brings flowers and sits on the bench and talks about everything that has happened. She wishes Rosetta could see what she has built. She wishes she could hand her grandmother one of the new scarves and watch her face light up. She wishes she could hear her grandmother say the words she has been waiting her whole life to hear. I am proud of you, baby. You did it. The words never come. They cannot come. Rosetta is gone, and no amount of success can bring her back. But Imani keeps building anyway, because that is what her grandmother taught her to do. You keep building even when it hurts. You keep building, especially when it hurts. Because building is how you honor the people who made you. Building is how you prove that their sacrifices meant something. Building is how you win. 6 months after the reopening, Imani receives a letter. It arrives at her office in a plain white envelope with no return address. One inside is a single sheet of paper, handwritten in shaky script. I do not know if you will read this. I do not know if you will care, but I need to say it anyway. I have been thinking about you ever since the party, about what you said, about what I said all those years ago. I have spent my whole life surrounded by wealth and privilege, and I never once stopped to think about what that meant or who it hurt. I told you that you did not belong, and I believed it. I believed that money and status made me better than people like you. I was wrong. I have been wrong about everything. Your success does not just prove me wrong about you. It makes me question every assumption I have ever made, every person I have dismissed. Every time I looked at someone and decided they did not matter. I cannot undo what I said to you. Like, I cannot go back and be a different person. But I can try to be different now. I do not know what that looks like yet. I do not know how to unlearn a lifetime of entitlement. But I am trying. That has to count for something. I am sorry. For what I said. For who I was. For the boy who stood in that doorway and thought cruelty was his birthright. Preston Ashworth IV. Imani reads the letter 3 times. She folds it carefully and places it in the drawer of her desk, beside the photograph of her grandmother and the original business plan she wrote when she was 17. She does not respond. She does not need to. The apology is not what matters. What matters is the work she is doing, the lives she is changing, the world she is building. What matters is the legacy she is creating. So not for herself, but for every young person who has ever been told they do not belong. What matters is proving every single day that the barriers people try to put in front of you are not walls. They are challenges, and challenges can be overcome. 1 year after acquiring Bellamy's, Imani stands on a stage at a conference for young entrepreneurs. The auditorium holds 2,000 people. Every seat is filled. Many of them are young women of color who see themselves in her story, who have faced similar dismissals, who are looking for proof that success is possible. She tells them about her grandmother, about the fire, about the boy in the doorway, about the 14 years of planning and building and refusing to give up. She tells them about the letter from Preston Ashworth, about the way he finally understood what his words had done. When she tells them that his apology was sincere and that she chooses to believe he is trying to be better. But she also tells them something else. His transformation is not the point of my story. My story is not about making him feel bad or forcing him to change. My story is about what happens when you refuse to let other people define you. When I walked away from that store 14 years ago, I could have let his words destroy me. I could have believed him. I could have accepted that I did not belong, that I would never amount to anything, that people like me do not get to succeed in spaces like that. But I did not accept it. I rejected it. I took his words and used them as fuel. Every time I doubted myself, every time I wanted to give up, I heard his voice telling me I would never afford anything in there. And I kept working. Because I was determined to prove him wrong. She pauses. The auditorium is silent. Here is what I want you to understand. There will always be people who try to limit you, who tell you that you cannot, that you should not, that you will never. Some of them will be strangers. Some of them will be people you trusted. Some of them will be voices inside your own head, echoes of every dismissal you have ever faced. But their words are not your destiny. Their limitations are not your limitations. You get to decide who you become, not them, not the system, not the world that tries to keep you small. You. She looks out at the sea of faces. Some are crying, some are nodding. All of them are listening. My grandmother died before she could see what I built. She never got to walk through the store she loved. She never got to wear one of the new scarves or see her name on the plaque. And I carry that grief with me every single day. But I also carry her voice, her wisdom, her belief in me when I did not believe in myself. That is what she gave me. Not money, not connections, not the kind of inheritance that shows up on a balance sheet. She gave me the knowledge that I was worthy, that I belonged, that I could build something beautiful out of nothing. And so, I built. I am still building, and I will keep building until the day I die, because that is what she taught me to do. Imani steps back from the podium. The applause begins slowly, then builds into something thunderous. People stand, tears flow, phones come out to record the moment, and somewhere in the audience, show a 12-year-old girl in secondhand sneakers and a dress her grandmother made by hand watches the woman on stage and makes a promise to herself. She does not know yet what she will build. She does not know the obstacles she will face, or the dismissals she will endure, or the fires that will try to burn everything she loves to the ground. But she knows one thing. She is going to prove them all wrong. The story of Imani Washington is not over. It will never be over, because stories like hers do not end. They echo, they ripple, they inspire other stories, other journeys, other triumphs that would not have been possible without the example she set. Every young person who hears her speak and decides to keep trying becomes part of her legacy. Every business owner who hires someone the world overlooked becomes part of her legacy. Every person who refuses to accept the limits others try to impose becomes part of her legacy. And that is the truth that Preston Ashworth and everyone like him will never understand. When you dismiss someone, when you tell them they do not belong, when you use your power to make them feel small, you are not just affecting that moment. You are setting forces in motion that you cannot control. You are creating either a wound that festers or a fire that forges. You are deciding whether your legacy will be one of destruction or one of motivation. Preston chose cruelty, but Imani chose transformation, and transformation always wins in the end. Tonight, after the conference, Imani will go back to her apartment. She will pour herself a glass of wine. She will look at the photograph of her grandmother that sits on her bedside table, and she will say the same words she says every night. Thank you, Grandma, for everything, for teaching me to sew, for teaching me to see, for teaching me to believe in myself when no one else did, for never letting me forget that I belong. The photograph does not answer. Photographs never do. But Imani knows what her grandmother would say. She can hear the words as clearly as if Rosetta were sitting beside her. You did good, baby. Now go build something else. And that is exactly what she does. Have you ever been told you do not belong? Have you ever walked into a space where everyone looked at you like you were a mistake? Have you ever had someone dismiss you with such casual cruelty that the words carved themselves into your memory forever? This story is for you, not because it will take away your pain, not because it will undo the damage that was done, but because it proves something that the world does not want you to know. The people who dismiss you are not as powerful as they think. Their words are not prophecy. Their judgment is not truth. They see the world through the lens of their own limitations. And when they tell you that you cannot, what they are really saying is that they cannot imagine you succeeding. But imagination is not required for success. Action is. Every step Imani took, from that first walk to Madison Avenue to the final signature on the purchase agreement, was a choice. A decision to keep moving forward despite every obstacle, every dismissal, every voice telling her to stop. She did not wait for permission. She did not wait for the world to recognize her worth. She built her recognition, brick by brick, decision by decision, until it became impossible to ignore. You can do the same, not in the same way, not with the same story, but with the same determination, the same refusal to be defined by people who have never bothered to understand you. The world is full of Preston Ashworths, people who inherit their status and believe they earned it, people who confuse luck with merit and cruelty with strength, people who stand in doorways and decide who belongs. They are not going away. You cannot wait for them to change, but you can build around them, through them, despite them. You can take their dismissals and turn them into fuel. You can take their certainty that you will fail and prove it wrong. You can buy the store, the company, the entire industry they thought they owned. And when you do, you can stand in front of them and show them exactly who you became while they were busy underestimating you. That is what Imani did. That is what countless others have done and will continue to do. And that is what you can do, if you choose to. The only question is whether you will let their words define you or whether you will let your actions speak louder. Choose your actions. Choose your legacy. Choose to become everything they said you could never be. And when you do not forget to tell your story. Because somewhere out there is a 12-year-old kid in secondhand sneakers, standing in a doorway, being told they do not belong. They need to hear that you made it. They need to know that the voices trying to limit them are wrong. They need proof that the world is bigger than the narrow vision of those who would keep them small. Be that proof. Build that legacy, and never, ever let them see you bend.